How's it going, everyone? My name is Donovan. In this video, we're going to talk about why you can't really move away from yourself and when it would be a good idea to move if you're trying to overcome some challenges. So this may be familiar, you're sitting at the office, staring at your screen, bored out of your mind. You run the idea through your head again. Maybe I should just give all this up and move across the world and start over. This is something that I think is a fairly common fantasy that people have, just kind of scratching everything and starting over with, something closer to what's going to make them happy. Before you drop your whole life and start over, let's think about a few of these issues and then you can make a more informed decision whether or not moving would actually help you. One of the best ways to start thinking about whether you should move somewhere or not is to ask yourself some reflection questions, such as, are you trying to escape from yourself? How confident do you feel about life? Are you moving for new opportunities? Do you feel like you need to explore? What's waiting for you in the place you want to move to? Are you going to have to start from scratch? What are you leaving behind? How long are you going to stay? What do your finances and other logistical concerns look like? Those are just a few questions to kind of prime your thinking. The main goal here is to identify which factors are internal and which ones are external, right? Because moving can help some things. So for example, if you live in a very small town, but you like nightlife, you may be able to get that in a city if you move. However, if your problem is you're having a hard time maintaining close relationships, that's probably going to be a struggle regardless of the city you live in because it has to do with the way you're interacting with people. Or if you're moving because you want to find more job opportunities, that may be better in a city. But if it's because you generally feel unaccomplished, that's more of an internal problem that you need to work out. Before you pack up and take off, take some time to reflect on what you're really hoping to get out of the experience. One of the most disheartening stories I've heard is someone who packed up all their stuff, moved across the country because they were feeling a little socially isolated, and once they moved, felt even more so that way because they had to start their social network from scratch. So they ended up even more frustrated, depressed, etc., etc. If they had thought about kind of these problems beforehand and realized that it was an internal problem as opposed to an external problem, they could have found a probably more efficient solution for working on it. For some people, moving is going to be the only solution, but for others, depending on what you're looking at, it may not help at all. So let's say that you do want to move, you decided that's the right choice for you. One of the biggest roadblocks people run into is actually planning out the details, right? I'm sure you've heard someone say, oh, I'm going to get rid of all my stuff and move to the West Coast or the East Coast or the Midwest or somewhere. But they keep saying that year after year and it never actually happens. This is because you need to get into the details and start putting a timeline on things. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be, I'm going to leave tomorrow. But once you put a date on things, you can start getting the pieces together and fleshing out the actual details. On another note, that's going to reduce one of the other fears, which is kind of being uncertain about outcomes, right? Being afraid to move to a new place. As you get into the details, looking up information about the place you're going, looking up, different places to eat, figuring out where you might work, things like that, you're going to feel more comfortable as you move through the process, and that fear of the uncertain will disappear. One other thing that you can do to kind of reduce some of that uncertainty is to map out your worst case scenario, right? Don't set yourself up for a 5-year lease or a mortgage if you don't think you're going to stay there for a long time, right? Start with a month, or start with some kind of temporary housing with someone you know at the new place. As long as you're paying attention to the details, you can make a contingency plan in case you move and it's not as exciting as you thought it was going to be. Many of us create more fear out of these kind of really bad scenarios that could go down because we burn all of our bridges and move somewhere and etc., etc. But with just a little bit of foresight and planning, you can mitigate a lot of the risks. Now, one last note, some people feel like they're supposed to travel or move somewhere, even though it doesn't really resonate with them. So if you are in this boat where you feel like you're supposed to travel, but you don't really want to, or you don't really like it, there's other ways that you can get the same types of experience without really traveling a ton, right? A big portion of traveling is to find new experiences, but no matter where you live, as long as you dig into the community and look for opportunities, you will constantly be able to try new things. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't travel, it's just that if it's not something that really appeals to you, don't feel like you have to do it. There are other ways to introduce novelty into your life and create new experiences. Moving and visiting new places can be a really rewarding experience. It just has to be for the right reason. So if you're considering it and you think it's going to solve some of your problems, take some time to reflect and see if those are internal or external problems. If you've already decided you want to move, but you're kind of procrastinating, start mapping out the details. Start putting it on paper or digital, whatever, but get those dates out and start thinking about when you're going to do it. Get concrete. Let's move on to the exercise section. Number 1, if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would it be? 2, how can you make these plans a reality? 3, would you like to travel for internal reasons or external ones? If you find they're internal, are there other solutions you could try before moving? I know that the video kind of bounced around a little bit, but hopefully it helps you frame the idea of traveling and moving around, because it's something that I think a lot of people consider, but don't really get into the weeds to think and reflect on what it really means to them. That's all I've got for this video. As always, if you have questions, comments, topics you want me to cover, throw them down in the box below. I'll get to them as soon as I can. And that's it. See ya.
You can check out more content at howtohappy.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you can stay up to date on the videos. We've also got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook that you can check out. Reflect, take action, and enjoy life. See you next time.